What's up, traders? I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to talk about my most recent trade. This was a GBP Jpy long position that I took yesterday, Thursday, almost said Friday, Thursday, March 11th, and I held the trade into Friday today, March 12th. The reason why I want to break this trade down for you is because I think it highlights my trade management rules, and I think that's what a lot of you that are struggling or not being as consistent with your trading results as you want to be, I think that's what you're missing, is a really solid trade management system. Now, trade management is just one piece of an overall, when you look at like a complete trading system, it's just one piece of that. But I think it's like I said, an important piece that a lot of people are lacking or missing completely. So I want to emphasize that today. Now, if this is the first trade recap that you've seen from me, you're going to need to go watch my other ones in order to see that this process I'm going to show you is exactly what I follow for all of my trades. It's repeatable, it's consistent, and that's why it works. That's why it does help those of the traders that, try it and add it into their trading system. It does make a big difference for them. So if you have any questions about the management system when I'm done explaining it here, put them in the comments, email me, DM me. Just make sure you DM the real me, not a scam account. I'm always available to clarify this and really go deeper on it, but I think the best way I can teach it and show it is through my examples and through my trading and through my live experience. Now, this is not something that I had when I first started trading, and I think that's why it's such an important thing for me to push right now, because there's so many people just getting into trading for the first time. So with your entire journey, with your entire process as you go about trying to find the right system, find the right mentor, find the right community, keep in mind that you do need a solid trade management system, a solid trade management plan to complete your overall trading system. Now, let me show you the results from the GBP Jpy trade. So you can see I have two entry positions. All of these exits are just as the trade moved in my favor, I was closing the trade in profit. That goes into the whole trade management system. Now, my two positions, 151.37 and 151.39, are the two entry prices. And as you can see, my best exit was at 62, 151.39 to 151.62. So a really nice move overall here. But as you can see, I ended up getting stopped in profit on the remaining piece of the trade that I still had in. Very often, what I think is different from me than a lot of other traders on the internet is that I'm not super big. I do it sometimes, but I'm not super big on setting a take profit and letting the take profit get smashed. Because very often, we're trading pairs that have a lot of strength, pairs that have a lot of or a stronger trend. And I want to ride that trend as long as I can. I'm never going to be the guy that tries to call the top of the market and say, yo, we got to get out of GJ today. It's not going higher. That's just not the way that I want to run my trading business. That's not the way that I've seen other successful traders do it well. If you've been following me or ASFX for a while, you know I had a couple of conversations with Tom Basso, who's a legendary hedge fund manager, legendary trader. He's in the Market Wizards book. I highly recommend you check out his info. And his thing that he always says is enjoy the ride. His trade management strategy is basically to find a trade, find a trend with good high probability, and ride that trend by moving his stops up and take profit as it moves. And that's basically what I'm doing here. The modification is that I grade my trade setups A, B, or C, and the quality A, B, or C determines how I manage the trade. So let me give you an example of that here with GJ. The issue with this setup, I have my entry price here. You can see I had about a 9 pip stop with this idea. I'm going to show you the 1 minute too to break down where I read that risk reward, but just notice 151.37 is where I have the entry marked, and then I'm looking at 151.27 for that stop loss. Now, the 1 minute entry created this risk reward setup with such a tight stop. The 1 minute entry is readable using the D1 strategy. The D1 strategy is a divergence trade that we see normally when it's a high probability D1, it comes off the 50 EMA here, that blue line. So when I'm seeing this setup holding the 50 EMA after moving higher all night, I know because of my systems that I'm looking on the 15 minute and the 1 minute for a D1. The reason why I was confident to be long biased here and not trying to follow the move just from this drop here and try to follow that short is because if you go to the daily time frame and you check the other higher time frames as well, look at how strong this thing has been in an uptrend, holding the 8 EMA, going all the way back into December. Now that's a big move when you're talking 8 or 9% in a few months for a currency pair, and we saw this across all GBP pairs. GBP CHF, same thing. Look at it on the daily here, holding the 8 EMA for the last couple of weeks, 6-7% over the last couple of months. So we're seeing that strong GBP momentum, which is feeding the long bias. The 15-minute setup here today looks really good with the TDI and the buy zone, price holding above the EMAs like I said, so that's why I was looking here on the 1 minute for the D1 entry. The issue with this trade, what I didn't love about it, was that it had already hit overbought here, so knowing that it already hit overbought, sometimes we can see it hit that level again and bounce off it. So when I'm reading the risk reward on the 1 minute, I'm trying to get a tight stop loss because I know I could just trade this up to high of day, see it bounce off high of day and come lower since it already hit overbought. But that's not going to keep me out of the trade. Being overbought does not prevent me from buying it because we're trading in trend and we know it can be overbought and still move higher. The back testing tells us that. So here I'm reading risk reward. It's about 3R, about 30 pips of rise with only 10 pips of risk. That's a great trade. So when I can find an entry signal and I can get the D1 trigger on the 1 minute, that's my entry signal, then I know that, okay, because the risk reward here is good over 2R, then this is a signal that I want to take. Now, the quality of the trade is determined by what I don't like about it. Like I said, it's overbought. Other than that, though, the only other thing that I didn't love about it was that the 8 and the 21 had not shifted up yet. You see how the 8 EMA, the yellow line, is underneath the red 21 here before the entry? It shifts up as I take the position, and then it holds the 8 EMA. That's what I'm looking for in these trades, is for it to get above the yellow 8 and hold the 8 as it moves. So trading from in a downshift to basically taking the entry as it shifts up, that's not as probable as it could be because it would be better if it was already in the upshift. So those two things are not serious knocks, the downshift and the overbought, but there's still something I have to take into consideration when grading it. So I gave it a B. I didn't call it an A because it's definitely not perfect. We just talked about why. And it's definitely not a C, which is a low probability trade because I'm still trading in trend and the things that are wrong with it are not that big of a deal. So I'm trading it as a B trade. Now with my B setups, the trick here is that I don't move my stop loss in profit and I don't take profit as quickly as I do with my C setups, my lower probability trades. My C setups, once it moves 1R, I lock the stop loss. So if I had treated this like a C setup, it would have moved 1R, and probably just because of spread, once it did, I would have had my stop loss right here where this black dotted line now is. I'll put some text on it so you can see. If I had put my stop here, these pins probably would have got me out. But it never broke under the 8 EMA. It was just a little volatile while still closing above the 8. And I've been pinned out of GJ trades before, so I wanted to make sure I gave it space. So I waited until I was up 1.5R, until we started to push towards that high of day. That didn't happen until 8 a.m., so literally 2.5 hours in the trade before I take any profit or move my stop. That's when I finally put the stop in profit above the entry price and started to piece myself out here, 151.50, as we moved up towards 151.60. Now, when we got to high a day, I was already up over 2R, pushing 3R, which is 3-1, up 30, risking 10. I was out at 2R and taking more off here at 3R because I knew this high of day zone could be a level that we find resistance at to move lower, like I said at the beginning, right? But notice, once we hit that zone, my stop loss was locked in profit. I'm already 50% out of the trade at this point, and now I'm watching it to see if it breaks under the 21. And notice how it does not break under the 21 and hold. It also doesn't cross the 8 under the 21, which is a good sign that it should continue higher. So I held half the position into the overnight. Overnight, it ends up pushing over 80 pips from the entry. I didn't take any profit here as it did make that push, even though I saw it happening. I was able to watch this happen, and this is where I made my mistake. I should have taken some profits here, especially since it was touching overbought again on the TDI. But I didn't. I was off my routine a little bit. We were up late booking some trips, going to Mexico and going to Denver and a couple of other fun places coming up, so you'll hear all about that, I'm sure. But staying up late basically threw me off my routine a little bit. So instead of me coming back to the chart later and seeing even it push up here to the 86, 87 pip profit level, instead of me closing some of the trade here while I was up, maybe at midnight around here while I was still looking at those trips, I ended up just leaving my stop loss here at the newest structure point because we saw it consolidate there. So stop was locked in profit and I went to sleep. So by the time I woke up, because I slept in, it was 7 o'clock and I was stopped out of the trade here. So I didn't get to take any of the profit out here, which I should have done. I didn't manage it well because I was just being a little bit aggressive, a little bit greedy, probably thinking it would just continue into today. And that's just not what happened. Friday, end of the week, that's why we probably are seeing it pull down here and find some consolidation at the bottom near the 200. So I could have done better in this still, even though it was a great trade. I could have done better to take profit last night and move my stop loss up a little higher. You know what I'm saying? But we live and we learn. I still think I did really well on this. I still think that I was able to find the highest probability setup yesterday and ride it. The other thing that I was looking at yesterday that could have induced some people to look for shorts was Euro AUD. But I found Euro AUD on the 1 hour 2 days ago on Wednesday to give an entry signal, an A1, not a D1. And that A1 was what I was really watching to see it come lower. Because it didn't pull back, I didn't find a 15-minute setup on EA yesterday, which is why I just shifted my focus to GJ and I was able to ride the trend here because I really like the long bias. And I'm probably going to be long biased on these GBP pairs into next week because there's normally a larger, higher time frame sign of reversal when we see the trend change. So even here at the 200 EMA, this is the same level I was buying it at yesterday. If it wasn't Friday at 11 a.m., I'd be looking to trade this long off this level right now. But it's past my trading hours. I wanted to get this video done for you guys. I'm going to boxing class in a little bit. So we're done for the week. We're going to take this into next week and move forward. But a really good trade start to finish. And I hope that this video does a good job at explaining to you my management rules and how I'm saying to myself, okay, is this an A setup, a B setup, a C setup? Okay, once I get the grade based on my questions on my checklist, once I get the grade, then I know exactly how much size it gets. A setups get X percentage, B setups get a little bit smaller, and C setups get a little bit smaller. And that percentage is called your risk profile. And I leave that up to you guys to decide. I'm never going to tell you, yo, risk 3% per trade. That's not my job. I'm going to tell you what I do and share with you how I manage my trades to give you better information to make your decisions with. So let me know if this video helps. Let me know if you're going to implement any of what I talked about in the trade management side of things from today's video in the comments. I always appreciate the attention you guys give me. If you found any value, I just ask for the thumbs up and the subscription. You guys know the deal. I appreciate it very much, and I'll see you guys in the next trade recap. Have a great weekend, everybody.